Today is Tuesday, the 14th of July 2026, and this is how we welcome you to our breakfast show. Good morning, Leone. This is the story that starts your daily news, analysis, and views of national concerns. We are your presenters. I am Emmanuel Samuel.
And I am Esther Samuel. Our quote of today is from American lawyer John Kennedy, and it says, "Power does not change you, it unmasks you."
That's true. Well, coming up, the Minister of Planning and Economic Development speaks on the 69th Ordinary Session of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government, hosted by the Sierra Leone government.
High-level talks pave way for Ernest Coleman's return to Sierra Leone.
And University of Sierra Leone sanctions 6 lecturers and 6 students over examination malpractice. Well, viewers, with all this, we invite you to participate by sending your text message to the number displayed on your screen or join us on Facebook at SLBC Live. The program you're watching is Good Morning Sierra Leone Live on the SLBC. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. The program is Good Morning Sierra Leone, live on the Sierra Leone Broadcasting Corporation. Don't forget you can be part of the conversation by sending your text message to the number displayed on your screen or send a comment on our Facebook page, SLBC.Tesla. Sounds like for us to usher in a guest in the program. President Dr. Julius Maada Bio is set to host the 69th Ordinary Session of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government in Sierra Leone, marking another significant milestone in the country's growing leadership role within the West African regional bloc. According to a statement issued by the Office of the Press Secretary at State House, the high-level summit will take place on the 19th of July 2026 at the newly constructed Julius Maada Bio International Conference Center in Leone. President Bio, who currently serves as chairman of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government, will preside over the regional gathering.
Ahead of the summit, Sierra Leone will host a series of statutory ECOWAS meetings in Freetown, bringing together ministers, senior ECOWAS officials, delegates, and development partners from across the region to deliberate on key issues affecting West Africa. The meetings will begin with the 39th meeting of the Administration and Finance Committee commenced from the 12th to the 14th July. This will be followed by the 56th Ordinary Session of the Mediation and Security Council at the ministerial level on the 15th of July, alongside the Joint Mediation and Security Council meeting on the Compact of the Future. In the studio, we have been joined by the Minister of Planning and Economic Development, Madam Kenya Bale. Good morning and welcome to Good Morning Sierra Leone.
Good morning to you as well, and good morning to Sierra Leoneans.
Madam Bale, since Sierra Leone conceived this idea of hosting this 69th Ordinary Session, there has been so much force this particular ECOWAS. And citizens, plenty of people are concerned, saying that they are still questioning of what relevance is this particular conference to Sierra Leone, or how will this conference benefit us as a nation?
In the conference, I'll just start by saying that the reason why I'm here is that the ministry hosts the ECOWAS National Office. So, by virtue of that, being an ECOWAS minister, and myself and the Minister of Foreign Affairs, we represent Sierra Leone at the statutory meetings when they hold twice every year. And then now we do supervise ECOWAS projects, and there are a number of ECOWAS projects in country. Now, applied to we as a country, where the president will host this meeting, because ECOWAS long been in existence for 50 years. And Naim become the chairman of ECOWAS during the Jubilee year. Other countries then host these meetings. It's not that we know to do anything else as a country, but we first of all we don't elevate. As you say, we don't elevate the status of Sierra Leone. Now we don't elevate the recognition of ECOWAS We don't carry that torch forward on a global stage. More kind to the economic, because now people let me talk about what is the relevance. You know, we've been here for fact for this chairmanship. Other countries want this chairmanship. And then see, now a befitting time for we own president as a statesman to chair ECOWAS. Now, over this week period, because you don't talk about all of the meetings, it's a tier of meetings before we reach the summit. The Security Council, altogether, we get 500 to 1,000 people they come in the country, right? There's an economic boost. First of all, that the tourism industry, the transport industry, and other industries related to hospitality will generate funds economically. Then, on the other hand, the conference center, where we're going to talk about, within 4 months, it generates 1,000 jobs, right? In terms of the cost, where people let me talk about, a public-private partnership, where the company, they take a loan, where get for paid over a 7-year period. So they are not enormous costs to the country, but there are more benefits to the country in terms of our hosting of this meeting and the recognition of the country within this meeting. Of course, ECOWAS, they discuss issues, economic issues, they discuss security issues, they discuss many other issues where they affect both Sierra Leone and the region as a whole. And the security, as you know, President, since he took up the chairmanship, he don't travel to every ECOWAS country to discuss the issue of the deepening of the democracy and constitutional governance. He don't reach out to the AES countries where break away from ECOWAS. And as I can say to people who break away from ECOWAS, they can't break away from West Africa. They want to be frontline states to terrorism, for terrorism. We therefore engage them with the security of the region. So many benefits and more, both visible and non-visible, attached to the chairmanship of this conference.
So Madam Bale, let's talk about, because you said the construction of the center is a PPP arrangement, and that the people that are doing the needs, they took a loan. So in the payment of this loan, would there be any cost of the country? Because these are some of the
concerns that have been coming up.
Concerns from the public. Will the country show that any cost in the payment of these loans?
When they take the loan, then pay over a 7-year period on behalf, is an investment on behalf of the country. But it is not an immediate cost, but it's a payment over a period of time that the government, they pay bit by bit by bit, but all of the management, everything to do with this center, a day on this PPP. After a period, then it will come over to the government. So there's not an immediate cost to the government, but government will pay over a period of time, a long period of time, like it is with other loans, like it is with other development and investment interventions for this country. Waiting we to get on the side, waiting we to get from ECOWAS, there's another facility, where they Lunge, where the logistics depot, ECOWAS logistics depot, where they serve as a regional hub for thwarting any kind of conflict within all of the countries. Now ECOWAS built that center. We also will have Sierra Leoneans employed at that center. At $8 million. We get the maintenance, the store, we get also the administrative block, the medical block. Then that's on site 1. Site 2, we get training facilities and accommodation facilities.
So Madam Bale, being that you've technically highlighted that there's a cost on the country which will be paid over a period of time. That is clear. Let's talk about the benefit, the economic benefit, the money that the country will be spending as opposed to the one that will come in. Have you done, let me say, cost analysis of what we are going to spend and what will be receiving in return? Because these are also some of the questions or concerns at play in the public.
No, we not do the cost-benefit analysis, because remember I told you that there are visible benefits and there are invisible benefits. And you know, we also did project. You know, there are certain things, you know, where, let's take for instance FIFA. You know how countries then they scramble for host tournaments like that? You know the reason why? Not just because countries love football, but the benefits economically to the country far outweigh the cost. Ours is limited, it's not on that state scale. But one of the things, of the many things that we project, besides the direct jobs, as Sierra Leone, we did look to promote what they call conference tourism. The reason why we don't get many of these large-scale conferences is that we do not have the facilities, and secondly, the location. You get countries in the region where they make millions from the hosting of conferences. Why is Salone not counted amongst that? We have not done the cost of projection, but I believe, say, it balance out.
But there's this concern that Sierra Leone last hosted African Unity Conference and the country went bankrupt, and now we are hosting ECOWAS again. So those are some of the concerns that are asked.
Yeah, I know it's a concern. For me, it's a legitimate concern, right? Although ECOWAS is not as large as OU, and not to castigate any former governments, but we're not reckless governments, right? If you look up for the OAU, now half of the country in budget at that time was used to host that conference. So we've reflected on that, and that's why I've given you that breakdown. It did not touch the annual budget. It's a limited amount, but we investment budget. That's not the first thing, right? That's the major difference. And then when I say that's why we go the PPP route, can you imagine a half of the government's budget for 1 year? For one conference. For me, that was reckless, and it happened at a time that the world economy were going through structural adjustment in these sort of things. So we could not withstand this as a government. And then things started going downhill. So, you know, the scenarios are different. You can't just say because we get one summit or one conference and the way we plan that the country will go bankrupt.
Okay, so I want to know what are the frameworks that the ministry have put in place in order to track delivery after the conference. So some of these deliverables that have been signed in the ECOWAS conference is being rolled out into jobs, translated into jobs or other services for the people in the country.
Yes.
Especially the Yenga issue, because that is in the mind of the people.
Yes. Okay, let me start with what was your first question in terms of the follow-up on delivery. Yeah. First of all, the follow-up, let me also, may I talk about, English? We're talking about the preparation, right? From the beginning of this year, up to date, up to yesterday, every Friday, we have a planning meeting involving all of the relevant ministries, which is chaired by the Chief Minister. And they report back, be it Internal Affairs on Health and Security, be it Minister of Energy on the energy situation, IT, every ministry reports back. So you can see that we have a framework in place prior to the meeting. After the meeting, as you say, in terms of follow-up, this is not the first or only ECOWAS summit. We're talking about all the countries in the ECOWAS region. The Minister of Foreign Affairs and I attend these meetings twice a year. This is the mid-year statutory meeting. Then we attend another one in December. So we have the responsibility of the frontline ministries of following up on all of the recommendations that either pertain to the sub-region or pertain to Sierra Leone. So we already have that mechanism in place, and then we'll follow up with the other mechanism. But in country, what you didn't ask about, and I'll come to you now, what you didn't ask about was what is ECOWAS doing in country that I am coordinating. They're in the process of building a border post at Gendema. ECOWAS in the past, I won't go into ECOMOG. I mean, so much there was economic and also social and life loss during the ECOMOG era. We're building a border post at Gendema, where ECOWAS is providing support for the construction of the Cornell University, and not just the university, the health center. ECOWAS, within its support to some of the border communities, we're building a market in the Sorobema chiefdom as well. Gendema border post is also in the Sorobema chiefdom. ECOWAS is providing scholarships to young girls through the Ministry of Gender and Children's Affairs. And I mentioned the logistics depot. Also, ECOWAS has promised support for other structures and market in country. And now, because of the President's chairmanship, we are eligible to benefit from what ECOWAS calls their transitional reconstruction fund, up to the tune, and we're holding discussions of that, above $20 million. So the country, whatever way you look at it, the country and the people of Sierra Leone benefit from this conference and benefit from ECOWAS support to Sierra Leone.
So you didn't speak to the...
Yenga, and also the Minister for Minority. So Yenga, as you know, is an issue that has been discussed at the Mano River Union level and had been escalated to ECOWAS. But ECOWAS has said that we should exhaust all possibilities at our level. They did send at one time a reconnaissance mission, but as you know, dialogue is going on. The Minister of Internal Affairs was with us downstairs. It was reported that they just ended a conference on security in the region. And you know what happened sometime in May, in which there was heightened escalation in tensions. But at that time, the three of the MRU ministers went to Guinea, held a mini summit, stormed the whatever was going to be the outcome, and said that there will be further discussions on the Yenga issue at a summit of the MRU SOC. We are working towards this MRU SOC, but we felt that we needed to have this security meeting first that was reported on. Based on their report and recommendations, this will be taken before the heads of state of the MRU.
Okay, thank you very much. She is the Minister of Learning and Economic Development, Madam Kenya Bali. And she has been taking us to Sierra Leone set to host the 69th Ordinary Session of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government, hosted by the Sierra Leone government, and she has also been taking us through the benefits that the country will have as a whole. Well, from there we'll move on to another issue. Is negotiations are progressing swiftly regarding the imminent return of former President Ernest Bai Koroma, with credible sources indicating that the Sierra Leone government decided to drop all criminal charges against him. He is much anticipated, which only set to align with the landmark ECOWAS summit in Freetown next week, marking a significant shift in the nation's political dynamics. Koroma, who served as president from 2007 to 2018, has been living in Abuja, Nigeria since January 2024, following a High Court ruling that permitted him to travel abroad for medical reasons after facing 4 counts of treason related to the failed coup attempt on November 26, 2023. The situation is advancing rapidly beyond just diplomatic discussions. Reports reveal strong backing for the reconciliation framework from both the ruling Sierra Leone People's Party, SLPP, and the primary opposition, the All People's Congress, APC. A formal motion is expected to be presented to Parliament and ratify the political agreements reached with ECOWAS stakeholders. For more on this, from the civil societies point of view, we have been joined in the studio by the National Coordinator of the Civil Rights Coalition, Alfonso Mandi. Good morning, Alfonso. Welcome to the program.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for having me.
So, from the intro, there is a question. From the civil society point of view, what do you make up of this move in order to swiftly return the former president and his Michael back to Sierra Leone?
Well, it's a welcome news for national cohesion. Firstly, we want to commend the Elders Council and the SLPP chairman for taking this bold step. You know, during the engagement with the Elders Council, he clearly stated that he has engaged Parliament. He has also engaged the leader of the Sierra Leone People's Party. Of course, the leader of the Sierra Leone People's Party is the sitting president, His Excellency Dr. Julius Maada Bio, on this issue. So on the CSO perspective, we think to promote peace, stability, tranquility, to have a united Sierra Leone, there is a need for this. But we also call on the states to drop the matter, because the matter is still in court. So we call on the states, we are appealing for this matter to be dropped. And the President, the Attorney General, they can do the needful. So on the return of the President, we think this will continue to promote peace and national cohesion. And this is what we want, and this is what the people want. To see these two statesmen sit together, discuss the future of Sierra Leone. Not too far from now, President Bio will become a former president. Already, Ernest Bai Koroma is a former president. They will meet at ECOWAS level to advise current presidents. They will point at them to say, you had your differences, you are not able to resolve it. Look at the inroad, the step that President Bio is taking, the ECOWAS, the center we have here, promote tourism, promote business, a lot of benefits. The intervention he made during the Guinea-Bissau coup, also of Cape Verde, So we think there is a need for these two gentlemen to come together to show Sierra Leone that we are one country and we can do things on the same platform in promoting peace and tranquility.
So Alfonso, when they talking that the government wants Parliament, the government is engaging Parliament for the return of a former president, and there is this concern from the public. But the matter is in court. The matter is problem in court. Why is it that Parliament is the one championing? As civil society, are you guys not concerned? Are you just pleading for the government to just drop charges and then Parliament pass a motion for the man to come?
But you had me. Before now, in 2012, we had a similar concern. There was a parliamentarian who was charged to court. It was alleged that he was registering underage voters. And these were pupils, school-going pupils. Moving down the line, the matter was dropped. This is not the first matter. So this is why, knowing fully well that there are three arms of government and the judiciary is an independent arm of government, this is why we appeal to His Excellency the President to drop this matter. I made that appeal. We also appreciate Parliament to table a motion. So these are separate arms of government.
The man is in question is being charged for treason, and you are saying they should drop the charge.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. And that's what the public wants.
So why? Because treason, someone will tell you that it's a very grave.
It is grave, but it has not been. It's good you say allegations.
Yeah.
It's good you say allegations. There are times let's sleep in dogs' lies. For lucky I bet fat food for one piece. When President Kaba wants peace, he gave for the Sanko the status of a vice president. People are saying, no, Pakaba, not do that, not do this, not do this. But Pakaba said, no, and that peace will enjoy so they like today. He took that bold step. Paul the City don't cut, tank cut, food skin, bocos, bonos. He said, no, let's come together. And it was this very President Bio, who brought for the Sanko to the limelight in Abidjan. People that believe say for the Sanko to Motaman, animal. Saying animal this. So we are appealing. It's not hard and fast food. We are appealing to the states. Constitution to stone can be amended. Any law can be amended. This is why we are appealing as CSO, because we know the importance of these two gentlemen working together in the interest of us.
So in law, there's this thing called precedent. People call it precedent. So the government now setting a precedent that Ernest Bai Koroma is being charged for treason, and they come to the table and they reach an agreement that such charges should be got. In a case where someone else does such action, don't you think that's a win for the individual to say, there's a precedent already that, let's say, someone of higher caliber does the same?
But the intents are different. In law, when you talk of pretext, you also talk of the intent. Right. So this is why we are saying he has not been proven guilty. The matter is in court. But for national cohesion, peace, even in my own party says everybody talk and including the Elders Council, like the 8th President Bill, no. They think moving in this direction is good for all of us. And this is what we are saying. It's shameful for us, the Osef who has to president in another country, former president. We never resolve the differences in house. So this is why we are making these moves. So, and want to commend President Bio, because if President Bio not be one, this even when he party discuss, I don't stop there. So President Bio is a good man, he's an upright man. So this is why we want to come in as civil society to say we appreciate this. Please carry on.
So Alfonso, the discussion on the return of the former president came at a time when he is about to host the ECOWAS conference.
Yes.
In my mind, I started thinking that, was this one of the criteria given to the government that you should settle that differences before we can allow you to do this conference? Do you think in that same?
I don't think so.
Why?
ECOWAS cannot regulate Sierra Leone. We are a sovereign state. There is no mention of ECOWAS in this discussion. It was initiated by the Sierra Leone People's Party, the chairman. You had the deputy chairman. He has gone through all media houses to appeal to President Bio. We never mentioned the ECOWAS. It's a sovereign state. It's an internal matter. But what we are saying, they are outside watching. If they cannot resolve their differences, and not too far from now, President Bio will become a former president, sits on the table to resolve differences for another country, then go point finger para. Say where you will try for the resolve, I know resolve. Go solve you first. We don't want that. Where they left it for ACA up. And he has achieved that. Look at the free quality education. Look at the health sector, infrastructure. We are not there yet, but we appreciate. Using 2018 as the baseline to now, there's some progress in all sector. So we are saying, come together on a discuss state issue. Don't forget about this SLPP, APC business, this, no. Put it to rest and move forward. See Sierra Leone as a national agenda. How can we solve electricity issue, water issue, bring it all on board? So many issues in the university, how do we solve them? How do we offer solution to them when we are divided? So I am appealing as civil society. We welcome the moves by the Elders Council. We want to commend them. We want to thank the SLPP chairman and his executive for taking this bold step, and thank the president, because if you not be one down, if you don't call him very net, put a stop. But they continue with the dialogue, the discussion. So we are commending all of them. So we appreciate this, and this is what the public wants, to see the return of former President Koma to come home. This is his home.
So
Nigeria is not his home, Ghana is not his home, this is his home.
Alfonso, before we leave,
we want him home.
Despite the media rounds making this appeal, have you reached out as civil society group to the judiciary for this plea that you are making?
Thank you very much. You know, in the 21st century, there are series of channels to communicate to governments. The SLBC is one that I'm using now. If I talk in here, we know right now, they listen, they call me say cybercrime. So then they listen. They are listening in all of these MD, they have their own media guys. So then they listen. So one way for can talk to our AG this morning for car. But if you say I talk to you, all right, for let you know say AG they listen, pastor call me, say me man reports. So they are listening. And we commend them for that. So we are appealing. We want to let this Parker home, log jam, triumphant welcome. Now they will change the trajectory. And this discussion started when after the death of the former chairman of the APC, Honorable Mikhailo. He was described as a fine statesman who can go in between and work with any political party. So this is why people actually felt it when he was not part of the funeral. to lay to rest his own brother and comrade. So this is why we are appealing that we want to give the former president a triumphant welcome home, to say Sierra Leone is your home. We welcome you. Continue to work for this country, work with President Bio. He is your brother, he is your colleague. Both of you are statesmen. Please, we want to see that.
Okay, thank you very much. Is Alfonso Mande, the National Coordinator for Civil Rights Coalition, as according to him, as a civil society organization, they're excited for, as high-level talks are underway for the return of former President Anes Baikoma. From there, we take a health tip of today, and today we look at what is thyroid eye disease. Thyroid eye disease causes eye irritation, swelling, and vision changes in some people with thyroid conditions. Learn what to watch for and how it is treated. Watch and learn.
If you're living with a thyroid condition, you know it can affect your energy, metabolism, and more. But did you know it can affect your eyes? Thyroid eye disease, or TED, can make your eyes feel irritated and affect your vision. It can even change how your eyes look. But here's the good news. Most cases are mild and manageable. And when it comes to treatment, you have options. Let's start at the beginning. TED happens when you have an autoimmune condition, most commonly Graves' disease, that affects your thyroid. In some people, the immune system also targets the tissues and muscles around the eyes. That can cause things like red or watery eyes, dry eyes, light sensitivity, double vision, puffy eyelids, bulging eyes, or eyes that won't fully close. Certain factors can make thyroid eye disease worse, including smoking, uncontrolled thyroid levels, and some treatments like radioactive iodine, especially in people at higher risk. Treating thyroid eye disease depends on the phase and the severity of the disease. During the active phase, symptoms may come and go. Your care team may recommend lubricating eye drops for dryness, special lenses or vision aids to help with double vision. In select patients, supplements like selenium may support eye health. Medications, and in some cases radiation therapy, can help lower inflammation. Once TED becomes stable, your provider may recommend surgical options. Eyelid surgery can improve comfort and appearance. Orbital decompression can lower pressure on your optic nerve, but not everyone needs that. If you are living with a thyroid condition and notice changes in your eyes, talk with your healthcare provider. Managing TED early can help protect your vision and support long-term eye health.
Hope you've learned a lot from that video that talks about thyroid eye disease caused by irritation. Well, the Good Morning Selo program continues, and we go over to another serious issue when we talk about education, especially in the tertiary education sector. The College of Medicine and Allied Health Sciences, Commerce, University of Sierra Leone, has sanctioned 6 lecturers and 6 students following a comprehensive investigation into examination malpractice during the pre-admission examination for the Diploma in Nursing program. The disciplinary measures stem from the recommendations of a 7-member investigation committee established after the examination was cancelled on 10th March 2026. The examination, which involved more than 800 candidates, was nullified following allegations of widespread malpractice. The committee was also mandated to investigate the circumstances surrounding the incident, review available evidence, determine the extent of the violations, and recommend appropriate disciplinary action. Its report concluded that the malpractice seriously undermined the integrity of the admission process, compromised the college's academic standards, and threatened public confidence in the fairness and credibility of the university's assessment system. Well, in the studio we have the Director of Communication and International Relations, University of Sierra Leone, Dr. Tunia Musa. Good morning and welcome to Good Morning, Sierra Leone.
Good morning and thanks for having me.
So when I saw the press release from USM on this matter, and I was moved and I was happy that such measures were being taken place. But I was also concerned as to the process that the committee used to put out such recommendations for these individuals that were alleged to have involved in this issue.
But the process also was part of what you read, in your intro. Basically, we believe in natural justice, meaning irrespective of what we have before us, we will give opportunity to whosoever is being, alleged or has been, presented to us for investigation. So the discipline committee of the college is instituted by the administration, brought together students as well as lecturers who were all alleged, for the examination malpractice you have just mentioned. To us, this is very important because it's about assuring quality and also maintaining standard in the university. We don't talk about new policies. This is a policy that had been there for some time, but then now we want to enforce it. And then talking about admission is very important to us because these are the two activities that can actually maintain and promote academic integrity. When we talk about admission and when we talk about examination. And now the two are connected from what you have just said. We have what we call pre-admission examination after a remedial class at College of Medicine. Specifically, this one was designed for diploma in nursing. And we expect health workers to be very professional. This is why at the end of the academic training, before going to practice, they even take oath. Meaning, taking that oath simply means they have to abide by standards. And then it becomes very detrimental for us to accept or encourage any form of, indiscipline as well as unethical behavior in the process of training medical practitioners. At the end of the day, we may also become the victims. So this is why we want them to actually, be trained, and then we want them to uphold ethical values. Now, during the remedial classes leading to the pre-admission examination, the college provided a center where all the students were required to take lectures. Now, what happened was that some lecturers decided to create, syndicate tutorial outside the identified center just for them to have additional income. And in the process, the confidence to the students was that they may be, favored, and some might even be exposed to questions for the examinations that they were preparing to take. Now, in the examination hall, some students were found with answers or related information to the examination in their mobile phones, which of course is a serious breach. And then some were caught spying, in the examination hall. So as a result of the glaring evidence of malpractice, the administration decided to cancel the very exam that the students were writing. And then after which, they decided to call another examination just to ensure that there is fairness to those who are very genuine. Interestingly, 100 and more did not turn up for the second exam. The reason was that they were now skeptical or jittery, given that they have been exposed. And then to us, it's very important, especially our colleagues, who might have involved in such an unacceptable act, given that there is code of conduct guiding our behavior. And it's interesting to know that students actually are the last people you may trust in terms of keeping secrets. So these guys are very desperate when it comes to, going through the academic corridors. So whatever they want to do to ensure that they can do it. And then whatever compromise you might have had in the process as a way, and you consider it to be secret, it's no secret. So we want our young colleagues to understand that there should be a line between the student and the lecturer. Now, talking about the sanctions, as you have heard, 11 lecturers were investigated and then 6 were found wanting. At the end of the day, 1 was dismissed and the other 5 are going to be terminated, meaning their contracts are not going to be renewed at the end of this academic year which we have a few weeks from now, it's interesting to note that the university is actually, in the midst of examination malpractice in Sierra Leone, which that is now a national concern. The university is trying as best as possible to improve standard. Now, last week you might have heard about it, there are more than 100 students in College of Medicine have been rejected from taking the second semester examination, failing to meet the 75% threshold of class attendance. It's a policy and that has been enforced. It is important to know that in training medics, you have to avoid any form of knowledge gap. Whether they are coming out as nurses, or they are going to come out as medical doctors, or they are coming out as pharmacists, or even they are coming out as lab technicians. What they are doing is very delicate. Take, for example, the case of a lab technician who might fail to, deal with the blood sample that has been used and interpreted or analyzed from the lab to say specimen A is for individual B, and that specimen result is HIV/AIDS, and you are there, you are waiting for malaria, and then they told you that you now have HIV. Just imagine how you will feel. But it's a mistake. So this is why precision and rigor is very important in training medics. So this is why the university, has taken this bold step to ensure that, we enforce our penalties by way of implementing our policies so that students may understand why they are in the university.
So what is the monitoring mechanism like for these universities? Especially because if it is in the admission process that we are having such malpractice. Imagine now when they're doing the normal examination, because you made mention that these nurses, they are very much important for us as Sierra Leoneans. How is the monitoring mechanism like for all these colleges that are under the University of Sierra Leone?
Systems have already been put in place, including structures, to ensure effective monitoring. For example, talk about class attendance, which I told you a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
There are some students were, denied to take the exams for second semester. Now simply means there is class attendance, that is the checklist for class attendance, and then you also have lecturers keeping records of submission of assignments and the like. And then you also have what we call project works, class presentation. These are all tools we have put in place just to ensure that we monitor class attendance and participation. Now, coming to examination, the first mechanism is preventive mechanism, which is letting the students know about the policy and the implications of the policy and the way the policy might be implemented and some of the sanctions associated with the policy. So the student gets that right from orientation to ensure that they are abreast whatever is going to happen to them.
So, Doc, briefly, when I saw this also, there's this for someone who might have taught before. We say, okay, University of Sierra Leone, as you have examination department that deals with exams and collates the examination questions, all of the sorts. And if maybe lecturers are given the opportunity to draw questions, they are to submit pool of questions from which the examination department will now extract some to give to the student. So how were these lecturers able to access the exact questions that during the investigation they discovered that the students do have the exact answers to those questions they ask?
Well, what you explained is just one model that we can use. Simply means generating data bank, which will be question bank. And then at the end of the day, the examiners may select what they want. Another model is submit the questions and they can be moderated, and then with your instructions provided, they become the questions for the examination. So that is another model. So coming to this, it was quite clear that the lecturers actually develop or design their questions. Questions were moderated, and then the students were required to answer the questions. But again, given that we have what we call flexibility in academic activities, this is just one flexibility, giving you the option to draw the questions based on your course outline or scheme of work or content that you have taught, so that the student can take the examination. And that had been working. again, what you use to, ask your question is another model. Wherein, for example, we will keep, several questions coming. At the end of the day, you teaching, you may not even determine, or you may not be aware of the specific questions coming. And again, there are all what we call advantages and disadvantages to any of the models that we have discussed. But what is important is integrity, and then the integrity actually comes from the lecturers. Okay, we are now talking about poverty, but again, we have to understand that irrespective of the poverty, much is expected of us as lecturers. But again, in Sierra Leone, you are aware of the fact that we compromise examination integrity right from NPSC, go to Beke, come to WAS, and then you also come to the university. In the end, we have what we call GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. And that will significantly impact on not only education, but the integrity of the nation as a whole. If you come to a time when you say, I was educated in Sierra Leone, somebody else will say, Sierra Leone? Neither too. So we don't really want to graduate to that level. So this is why we think we must come together as stakeholders and ensure, that certain actions are taken. People were very curious to know the names of the lecturers, the students involved. Yes, we have our policy, but our policy scope does not provide for reading or giving the names of people involved in such an act on mass media. But then the records are open and they are available at the registry for reference purposes.
Okay, thank you very much. Is the Director of Communications and International Relations, University of Sierra Leone, Dr. Tonya Musa. As has been taken aside, the University of Sierra Leone sanctioned 6 lecturers and 6 students over examination malpractice. Now from there, the Mende Descendants Union was established in Columbus, Ohio, and is now expanding across several other states in the United States. As the organization continues to grow, it is only fitting that it is also established in Sierra Leone, the ancestral home, with preparations on the way to officially launch the Sierra Leone chapter this December. Well, in the studio, we have Mrs. Anna Joseph. She's the Paramount Chief, Mende Descendants Union, Ohio. Good morning, welcome to the program.
Thank you. I'm pleased to be here.
Okay, so for our viewers to understand, what's the importance of you forming the Mende Descendants Union, and what will be your activities moving forward?
Thank you for that question. And before I go forward, I want to use this opportunity to say thank you. I appreciate all the hard work of all our Paramount Chief, traditional leader in Sierra Leone. Mende Descendants come in existence when we realized that the Mende people have been disconnecting from one another. Not only disconnecting from one another, but disconnecting from their culture. And even the kids that we have in US are growing up without fully knowing their roots, fully knowing or understanding their culture. And there are so many struggling among the people in our community. Sometimes we live in a very quiet and isolated country. Sometimes you will be around here with your family member or somebody maybe back home. You never know if he or she is around you or very close to you. We face a lot of difficulty, a lot of challenges. Our kids are facing a lot of things, but because of loneliness, we are not connected. And so we use Mende Descendants to bring ourselves together, especially the Mende people together, and help to teach our culture, help to keep our culture alive. Our elders, our Paramount Chief, our leaders have fight us very hard to keep this culture alive. However, the young generation is going away from the culture, and we see it necessary and important to keep our culture so that we, the young people, will come up and try to help our Paramount Chief. We are not here to take away their tradition or compete with them. We are here to work side by side with them and ask for their blessing, their support, so that we all can work together and keep this I will see this is the most valuable asset our great-great-grandparents leave with us, the culture. We don't want to leave it behind. We don't want it to die. So that is why Mede Descendants is existing. We have existed in Ohio. We started in Ohio. It spread over US, and we see necessary to open it here because this is the base of Mede. No matter what we do, no matter where we go, this is our home, and we are here to promote that. December 19 gonna be the launching, the formal launching. They already have their own paramount chief here. They do the election on May, and they're gonna do that launching, formal launching here in Bo. And we don't want to do that without not informing our paramount chief. My purpose here is to meet with our paramount chief, leaders in the community, to inform them, ask for their blessing, give them that respect that they have been doing so much, and we recognize whatever they have been doing to keep this organization up, to keep this culture alive. And we are coming, as a children, we are coming to support them. So we need their presence. That's why I'm here.
So would you say since the formation of the Mende Descendants Union in Ohio, you have been able to keep the Mende tradition alive there?
Yes.
So how? Do you have a center, or what are the activities that you do?
So the activities that we do, we dance our culture. We make sure we teach our children the culture. Last 2024, we take Yea Mekalon to US. Yea Mekalon was in US nearly 2 months. She was in my house. We make sure we are supporting those our artists, our Mede artists. Every year, like upcoming August, we have another global launching in US, Ohio. We are in all other states gonna be there, and we're gonna get our Goodmorning life. We're gonna be our sewing. We're gonna be our kids that we are training to dance, our Mede dance, our cultural dance. And this thing has been motivated by every other tribe, and they have taken the culture very serious. So it's not only benefiting the Mede people, it's motivating another tribe to pick up from where we are.
So Madam Joseph, you have a center there that, someone who is a Mende, who thinks that maybe he or she has a Mende would do good to this place to say, okay, I want to learn about the Mende in Ohio, in the US.
So we are working on that. We have a project proposal we are working on to open a community center. We call it Mede Descendants Homework Help. Why do we bring that up? We notice that our kids are struggling, and especially when we fight for our kids from Africa and they migrate to US, they struggle. There is no connection between the ones that are migrating and the US kids, and how we want to connect them. When we have this community center, these kids will be there. They will be able to connect with themselves. They will be able to help them navigate the system. Our parents that we fight for them, most of them, there are a few years, parents will say, phone crazy just because of the loneliness and decide to return back. So this community center, we're able to keep these people together because they will come together, they will have that center and go sit down and talk their Mende, and they will be able to teach our kids the Mende.
Wow, this is very interesting.
Very interesting.
Well, viewers, we have to let you rest, and we go over to another segment in this Good Morning show, which is the review of the headlines of our local tabloids. I start the ball rolling with the Standard Times newspaper that says ECOWAS Administration and Finance Committee opens 39 sessions in Freetown. Chief Justice inspects ongoing construction of first sexual offences model court in Sierra Leone. Commerce clarifies attendance policy, 75% requirements to write exams. This story was one find in the Standard Times newspaper.
Satellite newspapers, banner headline states at MIU Security Summit, Sierra Leone wants younger demilitarized. And to boost Sierra Leone's electricity, Parliament ratifies hydroelectric power agreement. This story is you can find on the satellite newspaper.
And the final one I have here is the Awareness Times newspaper that says originally scheduled for 11th July 2026, APC constituency elections delayed by PPRC orders. 3 newly accredited envoys begin diplomatic missions in Sierra Leone. This story plus more you find in the Awareness Times newspaper.
Africa 24 Communications newspaper banner headline states, ahead of ECOWAS summit, opposition leader claims Lungi. Also inside this edition, President Bioti Pardon and Escoma. Lawmakers to discuss their welfare and 170 fuel stations closed. Speaker wants APC MP. Well, the stories and more you can find on the Africa 24 Communications newspaper. But viewers, we must note that these headlines together does not reflect the views of the SLPC, but we are merely reviewing them.
Well, we want to end it, I guess, before we close this segment. We still have with us Dr. Leone. And Doc, before we go, what's next when it comes to maintaining the integrity of examinations and all other entry requirements into the university?
We maintain our policies and enforce them, and then I want to use this opportunity to inform the public that Frobe College, part of its community service, is going to conduct 6 weeks remedial lectures in mathematics as well as English language as a result to respond to the mass failure. And this is open to all applicants to the University of Sierra Leone and other institutions in Sierra Leone for degree as well as diploma and certificates from 1st August to 15th September 2026.
Wow, this is a laudable one, and we hope FBC continues this particular trajectory.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tonia Musa, the Director of Communications and International Relations, University of Sierra Leone. Now over to you. What should the members of the public expect as you are set to launch your Media Descendant Union in Sierra Leone?
Well, as a paramount chief and the founder of Media Descendant Union, I'm inviting all our paramount chiefs, our elders and tribal leaders, even the president, as he is a Media Descendant. We are inviting them, and we don't want to do this all by ourselves. We need the nation, we need our children, we need our youth to join hands with us to make this happen.
Okay, so thank you very much. It is Madam Anna Joseph, Paramount Chief of Media Descendant Union in Ohio, who has been speaking on their move to launch the Descendant Union in Sierra Leone. Well, viewers, with all this is how we draw the curtains of today's edition of Good Morning Sierra Leone, coming from the Sierra Leone Broadcasting Corporation. But before we go, let's take a quote again. It's from American lawyer John Kennedy, and it says, "Power does not change you, it unmasks you." Well, I want to say a very big thank you to you as studio guests and also our viewers, to our production crew, especially our producer Daphne Zainab Kamal. I have been Emmanuel Samuel.
And I am Esther Safo. Good morning, Sierra Leone. Get on soon. Stay glued to your public broadcaster, the SLBC, if you can. Bye for now.
As a mother of the house, whenever I want to prepare palm soup, there's no need pounding palm fruit. All I need is Nkulenu's Ghana's original palm soup base. My soup is done, and its preparation, it is not difficult at all. Nkulenu palm soup base, it's easily done with no difficulties. Just take few ladles and your soup is done. And its flavor, it's amazing. This is Nkulenu's Ghana's original palm soup base. And this is Nkulenu's Ghana's original spiced palm soup base. Iron fruit and turkey berries are naturally added.
Also available brown gold natural cocoa powder, sunny gold brown sugar, neat fufu flour, shito, pisa, and moringa. All available at Nyami Ado Enterprise, 1 Lower Waterloo Street, Freetown.
Nkulenu palm soup base.
Ghanaian original taste.